With the multi-talented Alan Tudyk in the lead role, Resident Alien is a sci-fi mystery comedy drama that follows Harry, an alien that crash lands on Earth, then poses as a small-town doctor, as he wrestles with the moral dilemma of his secret mission on the planet, while navigating the complicated relationships with a few townspeople who know his true identity.
I'm not an alien. Unfortunately, I hear they're pretty cool.
The series is based on the Dark Horse Comics miniseries of the same name by Peter Hogan and Stephen Parkhouse, which was first released in 2012. The series received mostly positive reviews, and the inevitable talk of a television adaptation began in March 2013. However, it wouldn't be until May 2018 that Sci-Fi would order a pilot episode for a potential series. The project was adapted for television by Chris Sheridan, who'd established himself as a respected writer in the TV industry, largely through his work on Family Guy, while the episode was developed in a collaborative effort by the company's Universal Cable Productions, Dark Horse Entertainment, and Amblin Television. The pilot was directed by David Dobkin, who'd previously written the cult classic 1995 film Ice Cream Man and directed the hit 2005 film Wedding Crashers. Happy with the resulting episode, Sci-Fi announced in February 2019 that they had ordered a full season of Resident Alien. The series was released in January 2021. Overall, the show received mixed to positive reviews from fans and critics alike. However, there were a number of aspects of the show that were universally acclaimed, such as Tudyk's multifaceted performance, while imbuing a distinctly non-human character with humanity, much as he had previously done in the 2004 film I, Robot as the titular automaton.
Vacuum cleaner appearing emotional.
I did not murder him!
The chemistry of the largely unknown extended cast, and, of course, the simple but truly brilliant opening title sequence that perfectly encapsulates the subject matter of the show with its distinct offbeat sense of humor.
There's our slogan. Resident Alien, it's a shot of helium in your ass.
All while paying respect to the comic book origins of the series. Traditionally, opening title sequences for film and television have been an art form, as they either establish context and detail characters' backstories or situations, while also introducing the themes, aesthetic, and tone of what will follow. Nowadays, though, the opening title sequence is mostly a lost art, rarely seen in either the cinema or on the small screen, especially when it comes to TV, given the time constraints of the medium. Even The Simpsons, who were famous for closing out their opening title sequence with an ever-changing and increasingly elaborate couch gag, have dropped the iconic sequence for many of their latest episodes. So, when it came to producing the title sequence for Resident Alien, it was obvious that they had to say a lot in a little amount of time. The studio hired for the difficult task was Huge Designs, a London-based company that specializes in main title design, specifically for television. As of 2022, the company has more than 300 television credits to its name. For the 2011 Emmys, the team was nominated for their work for the series Any Human Heart, based on William Boyd's 2002 novel of the same name, about a novelist's life over various decades. The company was praised for managing to encapsulate the life journey of a man from his birth to his death within 40 seconds without being too literal. Unfortunately, Huge Designs lost out on the award to Game of Thrones for obvious reasons. Later, in 2013, the company actually won the Emmy for Outstanding Main Title Design for their work on Da Vinci's Demons, which follows Leonardo da Vinci during his early days as a young artist and inventor. A common thread throughout much of Huge Design's work is their ability to say a lot with a relatively small amount of time, particularly when it comes to characters' personal struggles and life journeys, a talent which the company would put to use when it came to producing the intro for Resident Alien. Much of the humor of Resident Alien comes from Harry being completely out of his depth when it comes to grasping human beings' idiosyncrasies and social cues. Throughout the series, there are numerous moments when Harry gets himself in trouble after misreading a situation.
Let's take a look at that nasty thing.
So, the humorous premise of an extraterrestrial attempting to learn how to emulate the native species is what inspired the ever-changing manual for the opening title sequence for each episode that depict the do's and don'ts of human culture and the unwritten rules of social interaction. 3D animator and graphic designer Ben Hanbury is the person who came up with the idea of the manual. In particular, Hanbury focused on how furniture construction guides are often designed to be idiot-proof and will give people direct instructions on how to do the most basic of things that should be obvious to even the most oblivious individual, such as detailing how to turn a screw or how to connect parts that clearly go together. As simplistic as the manual idea was, the development process was quite complicated. Initially, Huge Designs tried the idea out in the style of a guidebook. However, after producing a rough mock-up, they realized that it looked too much like a comic book, and, although they wanted an illustrated intro, the original look was too similar to the comic that they worried it wouldn't differentiate the TV series from the comic book series. Drawing inspiration from the fold-out airplane pamphlets people find next to their personal vomit bag on flights, the Huge Designs team decided that they wanted the manuals to have a retro quality, so they altered the design and made the colors faded before landing on the perfect aesthetic. Although Huge Designs came up with the idea behind the Resident Alien title sequence, the show's creator and showrunner Sheridan contributed significantly, particularly in regards to the humor, as he and his executive assistant helped refine each idea down to its purest comedic essence, and it's here where you can see Sheridan's time working on Family Guy pay off.
You're a poop nose!
The original design of Harry in his alien form was also another issue that the team had troubles with. Some of the early ideas had Harry being somewhat aggressive and mean looking, and as misanthrope as Harry is in the show,
This is some bullshit.
he does have traces of humanity, something which increases as the series goes on. So, the team decided to change the aesthetic and direction of the manual designs to be more humorous and less mean-spirited. Fortunately, this decision didn't see them tone back on the dark humor of the show, which often resulted in some of the best ideas. Ultimately, the team's biggest challenge was trying to model and draw out what they thought certain scenarios might look like, and also how to present them in an infographic-style way. Sometimes, ideas that seemed perfect in theory just didn't work once they'd been laid out in a rough mock-up. Also, initially, they tried to cram multiple ideas with a lot of information into the panels. However, as the series went on, the decision was made to simplify the concept by focusing on a single idea per opening sequence, and fleshing it out more than they had originally planned to. Given the nature of the manual idea, it gave the company a number of directions to go in regarding the intricacies of humans and how they interact with each other. Ultimately, the Huge Design team found that the more niche they got with their ideas, the more interesting and funny they were, so much so that the design team had so much fun with the concept that they came up with way too many ideas to actually use as the main feature of a specific sequence. Once the aesthetic of the intro had been locked, timing then proved to be a challenge. However, ultimately, it ended up being a good thing, as it forced the team to fine-tune everything, which helped with condensing the sequence into the tight amount of time allocated for the show's intro, which the Huge Designs team well and truly made the most of. Remarkably, as simplistic but perfect as the pamphlet design is for the opening title sequence for Resident Alien, the team had toyed with two other potential ideas before Hanbury's idea was chosen. One involved a series of childlike drawings on the bedroom wall of Max's, the young boy who's the only person in town who can see Harry's true form.
I'm going to cut your head off!
The second idea involved detailing Harry's journey from his planet to Earth. In retrospect, both ideas would have been adequate, but far from ideal. Conversely, when it came to selecting the right piece of music for the intro, there was little debate as to what song to use. Throughout the run of Resident Alien, the show has made use of a number of songs from a wide range of genres, including hit songs and more obscure pieces. The songs were carefully chosen and used to great effect, as the show embraces utilizing music as a storytelling tool to inform subtext, in addition to setting tone. And when it came to selecting the right piece of music for the opening title sequence, a lot of thought was put into selecting just the right piece of music. Ultimately, the song chosen was Bilgewater by the band Brown Bird. Although only a portion of the song is used in the intro, it fits well with the series. The gritty nature of the sample fits with the rugged country town in which the show is set, as does the theme of resilience despite one's circumstances. The use of the song also had an added bonus of finally bringing recognition to the band that wrote and performed it. Brown Bird were an American folk band who originally formed in 2003 as a solo project for David Lamb. Over the years, the project evolved into a band, as various musicians came and went before the final incarnation of the group featured Lamb and his wife Morgan Eve Swain. Sadly, the band ended in 2014 when Lamb passed away due to complications from leukemia at the age of just 35. The band had been a significant part of the Rhode Island music scene throughout the early 2010s, though they never came close to experiencing the success they deserved before Lamb's untimely death. Sheridan was the person who discovered the song, and he always had it high on his list of potential songs for the show's theme music. He'd been involved in the development of Resident Alien for television for around 5 years before the project finally came to fruition. Immediately after getting involved in the show's development, Sheridan began compiling lists on Spotify for all the rare songs, bands, and albums that he happened to stumble upon. This is because he knew from the start that he wanted music to feature heavily throughout the show. Brownbird's 2011 album Salt for Salt caught Sheridan's attention, specifically the song Bilgewater. When it came to finding the theme music for Resident Alien, Sheridan immediately suggested the piece, because even just a small sample of the song was enough to catch people's attention and draw them into the narrative, in addition to the fact that the music fit perfectly with the tone of the show. Initially, given that Resident Alien only used a small portion of the song for their intro, the song was originally going to be licensed for instrumental use only. However, the show ended up securing the rights for the vocal version. Ultimately, the use of the song brought significant attention to Brownbird's body of work. Sheridan picked Bilgewater for Resident Alien's theme music long before he actually researched the band and discovered the news of Lamb's death. With this in mind, Sheridan has expressed a desire to incorporate more of Brownbird's music into the show, as well as tracks from other artists who are little known but deserve much more recognition than they've had so far, as he personally loves discovering new music and artists while watching film and television, a sentiment that Lamb's widow and former bandmate shares. Like most pilots, the first episode of Resident Alien has the inevitable clunkiness, which is magnified by the obvious limitations of having to film around COVID restrictions, in addition to having to rely heavily on far from the best green screen. Still, the show proved to be the perfect vehicle to showcase Tudyk's distinct comedic style. Additionally, while the huge designs team hadn't quite perfected the opening title sequence for the pilot episode, all the pieces were there in regards to music, tone, and aesthetic. And, much like the series itself, it was just a matter of time before the huge designs team refined their simplistic but brilliant idea and perfected it, making for one of the most basic but undeniably iconic and clever title sequences in the history of television.
Take a look at that nasty thing.